Hello and welcome back everybody to Pushblock Games. I am Jate and today we're talking some more Multiversus. Today we'll be taking a look at the balance changes that we know about heading into this July's open beta. There have been plenty of changes and a good amount of buffs, a good amount of nerfs, and some changes that have all come from the head game director's Twitter right here. So make sure you go on Twitter, show Tony some love before we go ahead and jump right into the first ever public balance patch in Multiversus history. We're going to start things off by checking out a buff to our cover boy, Shaggy. Shaggy is essentially Multiverse's version of Mario in Super Smash Bros. Or Ryu in Street Fighter. He is kind of that baseline character. But part of him being that baseline character is he was a little bit on the kind of generic side, and so the dev team opted to find some ways to try to make him a little more dishonest, even, they said. Some of the things he'll be able to do now is start with a sandwich in hand at the beginning of every life. And then also his grounded down attack will have a faster startup to allow him to use that move a little more frequently, make it a little more useful in general. And the same thing with this aerial down special, except it will now have armor. So anytime you get hit while charging up that aerial down special, your first hit you take will be negated. Some pretty good changes to help Shaggy be a little more unique and shift him towards the top side of the meta. So with our first big changes out of the way, we're going to take a look at some nerfs now, starting with Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny is one of the characters from the closed alpha that Player First Games thought was just a bit too strong, is going to be taken down a notch. The only specific change they gave us was that when he's coming out of his down special tunnel, he's going to have less invulnerability, so you can hit him earlier. Secondly, he's going to be given some more end lag on some moves. They didn't specify which ones, so we're kind of left speculating on how much this is going to affect Bugs. This could end up being a really big deal or just a slap on the wrist. We kind of have to wait until we get our hands on the open beta to really tell. The next character up to catch a nerf this patch is going to be none other than Harley Quinn herself. Harley Quinn will also be receiving some nerfs in the upcoming open beta, specifically to the recovery at the end of her moves. The team said that some moves will be getting recovery changes, but specifically up air itself will be being nerfed. But that is all the information we currently have. This balance update does contain a lot more nerfs than it does buffs and changes, so right now we're going to keep taking a look at some nerfs before we drop back into those buffs and changes coming up soon. So we're going to take a quick look at Jake the Dog. Jake the Dog is also going to be receiving a few nerfs here, just touching some of the stronger parts of his kit. So on his side air, where he can stretch out his arm and punch, it's a really good angleable move that can secure KOs. He's going to have a little bit more recovery, so it'll be a little bit more punishable of a move, a little bit more of a commitment for Jake. And then secondly, his side special, the horse, will have decreased movement speed, which really, those were kind of the two strongest parts of his kit. And so these are some decent changes, I think, but I don't think this will take him out of the meta or make him much weaker, really. Just a little bit more balanced. With a handful of nerfs out of the way, we can now check out what the heck they're trying to do to Taz here. Oh, troublesome Taz. Taz was a character in the closed alpha that he wasn't even necessarily all that good, but his tornado moves were so ridiculous, the knockback on them, how they were just spammable, that he's going to get some big changes in the upcoming open beta. So first of all, they've nerfed his ability to cancel out of tornado, so it's a less safe move, you can't follow up off of it as easily. But they have also gone as far as to reduce the knockback. That was the ridiculous part of the move that everyone kind of struggled with. That is, even if you were losing, you could die. It killed so much earlier than so many things in the game that it just was really ridiculous. So to compensate for those changes though, because his whole kit basically revolved around that tornado, and without it he really wasn't very good. And so they've added some movement and feel improvements, which they haven't really explained too much. But generally, you think he'll be able to move around a little better, maybe have a little bit less end lag on some things, maybe be able to kill with other moves, things like that. We'll kind of have to wait and see here. And they also said they're likely to see more buffs to compensate for those tornado changes, trying to change Taz into a more well-rounded, healthy character for the game. Now back to the buffs. One of the most iconic characters on the roster, Superman, is getting a pretty significant buff this upcoming open beta. While balance hasn't really been an issue in Multiversus so far, Superman has been one of the weaker characters in my opinion, so him getting a couple buffs here is a really nice touch. His up special command grab can now be controlled in the air. I imagine this will be similar to his side B or side special command grab, but we'll have to see. That's a really nice change because that's another consistent way that Superman can get some really early KOs. He's going to have more team utility with both grounded up and down specials. This is one of those things where this is kind of a consistent theme in a lot of buffs, is trying to grant characters more team-based utility for the 2v2 game mode. So they haven't said exactly how they're going to do this, but it's really nice to see because both of those moves felt nearly useless in the closed alpha. He's also going to have some bug fixes on his neutral special, his Ice Breath, that blocks incoming projectiles. There were a handful of projectiles that weren't being affected at all by this, and so it was kind of negating one of the things that really helps round out Superman's kit. All in all, some really good changes. Now we're back to the nerfs once again, and following up, Jake the dog is going to be his best friend, Finn the human. On in the open beta, Finn became more and more of a problem. The devs started to realize his untapped potential and some even game-breaking bugs that help make him even stronger. So this character definitely is getting hit the hardest by the nerfs coming into the open beta, and we're going to check out a couple of them. So first of all, his base movement speed is being decreased, and that is going to be a huge nerf that will affect everything he does. Secondly, when he buys boots from the store now, when he tries to buy multiple pairs or sets, they will no longer stack. They'll have diminishing returns. You'll get less for each pair of boots that you buy. You'll have less of a speed boost. Thirdly, they fixed a gem spawn bug with the major perk on the house, where you used to be able to get the gem to sort of spawn back on you and sort of be able to reuse it and extend combos to things like this. He also just going to be getting more recovery on multiple attacks. They haven't said specifically which ones yet, but basically getting more end lag in general, alongside some hitbox fixes, aka nerfs, where they're going to make moves smaller for the most part. So Finn, I still think he's going to be strong as a really good kit, but he definitely is going to be taken down a pretty significant notch in this open beta. Only 3 characters left that we know are being changed in the open beta. We're going to take a look at Garnet next. Garnet might be a character you don't see very often, but that doesn't mean she wasn't really good. The dev team generally considered her one of the stronger characters, if not the strongest character in the game. So therefore, she's going to be hit with a handful of nerfs just to try to keep her in check. Her up air is going to have more startup, so it'll take longer to come out and have those active hitbox frames. And also her projectile block ability, the startup is going to come out longer as well. So both those moves can take her a little bit longer to get going, a little bit longer. You have to react earlier to things. And the last change is going to be on her star ability. The cooldown is going to be increased. Now, as I said earlier, Garnet's character you don't see a lot. So I'm not even 100% sure how integral all of these things are to her kit. But I think if the devs think she's the strongest and she was a little too strong, finding some ways to knock her back isn't the worst thing. She definitely felt strong when I played against her. I only played as her once or twice, so I'm not 100% sure where she's going to end up after this. But if I had to bet, she's still going to be alright. So we've got one last little nerf to look at before we get to the biggest buff of them all. And that nerf will be to Reinhardt. Currently the only original character for Multiversus that Warner Brothers has made so far. And he managed to not escape this first patch without getting nerfed himself as well. The developers have said that he's going to get some light nerfs. They haven't actually disclosed what these will be, but they're most likely going to be related to his damage, as he's a support with some of the highest damage output in the entire game. However, he also was going to be hit by some global projectile perk nerfs that will really end up hurting him as well. So trying to stay away from really nerfing him too much, because the systems in place are going to kind of cut back on him already. So he should be relatively in the same spot, but a little bit weaker on the damage side most likely. Without further ado, let's get into the biggest balance change we have heading into the open beta on one of the most iconic characters on the roster that I think might have the highest skill ceiling out of any character in this game right now. Batman. So far in Multiversus, Batman has been a bit of a unique character. He's been kind of strong and has a really high skill ceiling, yet in doubles he's kind of fell short. So the dev team over at Player First Games is going to be giving him a huge amount of buffs, primarily trying to give him some more utility and just a little bit better moves in general. So the first things we're going to look at are some changes to his smoke, his down special. So smoke now grants projectile invulnerability for both Batman and his allies in doubles. So as you're in the smoke, you can't get hit by any projectiles. Also, when you leave the smoke, traditionally you would get a passive that your next hit would apply 1 stack of weaken, which would allow your opponent to take more damage and things like that. Now you will apply 3 stacks of weaken out of hit instead of 1, and that applies to both you and your teammate. So smoke getting huge buffs in this upcoming open beta. Up air is also getting some buffs, with up air 2 now applying an electric damage over time effect on hit. So it'll apply a little bit more damage over time and have the electric effects to it. Up air 2 will also apply 1 stack of weaken, so they're really trying to push this Batman being able to stack weakened for his other moves to be able to kill earlier, or his teammates' moves to be able to kill for him. Also, forward air is going to have a little bit faster startup. It'll be coming out faster and have one more active frame, just a little buff there. And then the biggest thing of all for Batman that completely changes his combo game, his potential, everything in my book that can shoot him up to that next level, is that they are going to now allow grapple to be canceled on hit. So before, if you grappled to someone, you had to go all the way towards them, where there were times as Superman, I just sat there and charged a down air as he came to me, I would spike him. Now, grapple can be canceled, so you can jump out of it. You can, set up for unique setups, whether it's combos or, you read they're going to hit you, so you jump above it and then spike them. There's so much potential here with this move now. It's going to be really interesting to see what Batman players can do, as he already had such a high skill ceiling, but this just continues to push him even further. I love these changes, and I think Batman has the potential to be one of the best characters in the game coming out in this open beta. There you have it, folks. Those are all the known balance changes coming to Multiversus by the July open beta. These are all the things we could find from the game director's Twitter, which I will plug again once right here for you guys to go check him out, because he's awesome and super responsive. But he is the reason we're able to find all this information and help me spread it out to you guys, so make sure to show him some love. And also show the channel some love. Hit subscribe or follow me on Twitter at JSSB if you want to keep up with more Pushblock and more Multiversus. And once again, if you want to see anything specific from me, make sure you let me know in the comments down below. Have a good night, guys.